Good morning, my name is Pat Gwyer, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'd like to introduce my colleague Phoebe Kingston to talk about some of her interests and experiences in mental health systems. Start off with Phoebe, if you could just tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm thought to be or labelled, an expert. I think I learn as much as I contribute. I don't think anyone can really know everything about mental health because it's just, especially mental health, because it's such a fluid space. Things always changing and evolving, and you always learn from the perspectives of other people that you meet. So really a mental health career actually mirrors a mental health recovery in a way, because there's no end to the growing and learning experiences. So I kind of consider myself forever a student in this field. I'm personally not that keen on the phrase recovery, and there's lots of reasons for that, but I prefer the word discovery, and I think that applies to me personally more. I think that what I did in my so-called recovery was more of a process of re-identification and a bit of reinvention, and I'm authoring a book on reinvention and re-identification, and postulating that it could actually be a fourth recovery framework after our three main ones: clinical, social and personal. So I really like to get that published, and actually really wanted to seize opportunities that align with my special interest area, which is advocating for alternative frameworks. But I find all of my work super challenging, interesting, fulfilling and rewarding.
I should have maybe said that I met you in New York. We were at an international conference on mindfulness and therapeutic approaches, and you gave an absolutely amazing presentation about your experience, and I think you really did wow the audience. And I did come up to you afterwards to speak to you about that. I think when you finished, your impact was so great, you could have heard a pin drop in the room.
Oh, thank you, Pat. You're very kind.
So the presentation you gave was really interesting. And when you were talking, I was just making a few notes about a few of the things you said. And I really liked when you said about it's a journey of discovery for you, and that you never stop learning. And I think as a therapist as well, for the last 20 years of working clinically, I have seen this change in service users being more actively involved in planning in their caring. I think there's been a shift of, treatment being done to somebody as opposed to being done with them. And that's really nice. I think there's probably still a long way to go. And it just reminded me of that very humbling experience I often have with clients of really learning more about myself and learning more about humanity by understanding other people's experiences. And, the amount of things you do, I got this idea, and you touched upon it yourself, of it's a never-ending process of discovery, not recovery. I think having this idea of discovery and having this idea of growth, but you don't stand still in that one place. You continually grow and you continually develop. And it sounds like we both have that idea about it's such a fluid process and it's constantly changing. The question I was going to ask next is about what motivates you to do what you do. And one of the things I felt is you've been able to get a real sense of meaning and purpose from your experience. So not only are you able to do something that is going to help others and is going to improve the system and the bigger picture, but also it feels that there's a very passionate sense of meaning and a sense of that you can help yourself and others. And
simultaneously.
Part of your discovery and part of your growth. So, what is it that motivates you? If you could try and summarize that, just summarize, what is it that motivates you?
Look, yeah, it could be a massive answer, so I'll just be relatively succinct. You know, in real estate, we say location, location, location. With me, it's passion, passion, passion. And if you're going to work in the, you know, the mental health space, you really have to be a people person. You've got to be a humanist, and you've got to be genuinely committed to improving the lives, you know, of others. And it doesn't matter which perspective that passion comes from, as long as there's a commitment to it at all levels. Like you say, I just want to use my experiences to help improve things, you know, for others, and that's a really genuine commitment. And to advocate and really be a change agent for reform in the system, because I'm often in a privileged position where I am giving a representative voice. But I actually have 5 values that drive all of my work. And the first one is that I'm incredibly passionate about the deliverance of the consumer voice to executive levels. I believe in consumer and stakeholder accountability and transparency in our mental health services. I really value robust consumer representation, consumer engagement, you know, and the principle that all health service stakeholder voices are acknowledged as equal and valued. And that's a really big one for me. And at the end of all that, I'm really committed to consumer activism and the consumer movement. You know, I'm always mindful of our forebears who endured so much and some real atrocities in psychiatry, and these people have fought very hard for our rights. At Curtin, we always refer to them as the giants whose shoulders we stand on. And so those are my 5 core principles that pretty much drive everything I do.
I was just wondering, I was just making a note of them, and I was just wondering if later on I can make them into an acronym.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
Yeah, so and you know, I think what's really nice is, as you say, in the past, I think there was that sense of stigma, a sense of shame. You know, if you had a mental health difficulty, you didn't really talk about it. Your family didn't talk about it. It was much more hidden. And there is that shift of saying, hey, do you know what? It's okay to be human. It's okay to suffer. It's okay to experience difficulties. You know, probably it's, as human beings, we've been going through this for thousands of years. It's probably going to carry on into the future. And, you know, if anything by the statistics, it looks like it's going to get worse. So it seems that, you know, why don't we learn from our experience? Why don't we learn from people who've actually been there and have gone through the journey of discovery? And what can we do different? And what can we do to make that journey as easy as possible? It's always going to be hard work. It's always going to be challenging, but we don't have to make a difficult situation worse by being insensitive, by not knowing and not being aware of the things that people need. And it sounds like part of your role and part of your mission and your passion is to help change that process. So it's a continually growing and organic process. And, you know, one of the things that really appealed to me when I met you in New York is I could see the value of you talking to mental health practitioners. I could see you talking to them much more as peers. And I was wondering if, you know, instead of sitting opposite somebody as a service user or as a patient, they actually had a conversation as an equal. It would really help reduce that discrimination. And, you know, that they say that communication and engagement is the key to addressing things like stigma and oppression and things like that, getting people to talk and challenging their own prejudices, their own stereotypes, their own assumptions. And sometimes we're not even aware of the assumptions. But if we only talk to people as I am the expert and this is the treatment you're going to receive, I don't think we change that dialogue. And it sounds like that's something that you're doing and really focusing on well with great vigor.